Alright, so I mentioned in the last episode I would talk about... Let's see if I can find... Do I have... What weapons do I have on me? Oh, you know what? The Razorback, yeah. I'm trying to think. No, actually... okay. I'm trying to think of all the... So, I mean, the Razorback, I was gonna say it's dumb, but then now I'm looking at it. The only really dumb thing, I think, is probably these, like, iris doors on it. I mean, visually, it looks interesting, and you gotta understand, this is a fucking video game, and that's all they care about. I'm not sure why the primers are put in like this. That seems a little odd. I mean, frankly, there's a non-zero chance that this could be for the visual interest. I should save this for a gas giant. Do we have another gas giant here? I think we're at, like, the end of the system, right? I do need to actually go and, you know, do the rest of the system, though. It's a shame how that works. No, I think actually it's Star Citizen I'm thinking of. That, the Coda has, like, the Coda is a revolver, its cylinder is the magazine, or is it's detachable, it's, you know, replaceable like a magazine. You know, if we're gonna be ludicrously technical about it, it is a revolver, so it isn't like, it isn't a magazine. I don't think it would be considered a clip, because it's not, like, a clip holds the ammunition. It's just a detachable cylinder, that's all it really is. I was gonna say, like, a, you know, interchangeable chamber cluster or something, but I don't know, that's, Okay, so the square shotgun, the square or shotgun thing, like, okay, so there's the puckle gun, which came in with rounded projectiles and square projectiles, and the square projectiles were, I know I need to go there, but I'm gonna extend the length of this a little bit artificially. I apologize. The puckle gun, as far as I know, I think the reason they did square projectiles, it was sort of a pre-machine gun. It was basically a revolver, of flintlock. I think it was a flintlock, if I remember correctly. I can't remember, and I'm not going to claim to be an expert, okay? But, like, if you know what your projectile is, you can make all these correct, you know, calculations as to ballistics. And I don't know why the puckle gun did that. I assumed the puckle gun did that because it had its own chambers, and it, like, wasn't trying to be a universal fit thing, whereas, like, I mean, like, make a ball of this certain size, a bore, this, you know, of a standardized size, or at least standardized to whatever your gun is, right? And that's a really easy, simple way to do. I mean, like, if you made, because if you did what bullets do now with cylinders, because this is in the day of muzzle-loading flintlocks, you know, like, I mean, like, okay, so how much do you make for your, or how, like, how long do you make that cylindrical bullet, you know? Do you make it, you know, 50 grains? Do you make it 500 grains? You know, you can, there's some variance there you could do, theoretically, and, it's a lot simpler, I think, anyway, just to make a lead ball. And then with bullets, you know, when you get into cartridges, like, you're not gonna just make a lead ball and call it a day. You also have to get primers you know, so like you have to go and get components so you can get fancier with the bullets, and also copper jackets interact better with rifling, and etc, etc. Completely different thing from the square bullets, I know. Why did the puckle gun do square bullets? I think because they could, and the puckle gun didn't really, it wasn't really a thing. It existed, but it wasn't really a big thing. The Whitworth rifle used hexagonal bullets, I believe. I could be wrong. Maybe they were octagonal. I don't know. But they were this unique shape, and I think it might have used polygonal rifling, and the idea was that you can more precisely, if you have this known image, or this known shape, you can more accurately calculate, like, trajectory, and so they made the Whitworth rifle that was like, that was supposed to be like a sniper rifle, and it had impressive accuracy. I think I think it might be, you might see some numbers that give it like very modern like it's good by modern standards. It's not good by modern standards, but it was very impressive by, you know, it like wiped the floor of any of its peers, but it was ludicrously expensive and not worth a thing. Now, I mean, I think if I had to give, now there is an argument that like, because I think there was I read this on an article about like, Hideo Kojima was talking about like, or said that like developers don't know what they're doing. Not that specifically, but it was like devs don't know how guns work. They just want to shoot people. And I mean, that is kind of an interesting thought. And I think it is a very interesting thing that would be worth looking into more. And especially, like, I would love to play all the Metal Gear games. I played MGS5. And I know that, like, in 3, there's some very specific things about, like, some very specific conversations with all the weapons. I think if you were going to break some things down, there's a lot of interesting and cool things. I know, and I'm getting, like, terribly off track. In fact, yeah. Okay, so if I'm gonna, but yeah, so does Bethesda know how guns work? There are some, like, extremely niche things that I think maybe, like, the Rattler specifically, is, like, they, like, as a gun nerd myself, I can reach, and I can see some justifications. But yeah, there's some really weird things. The square bullets, why we don't have square bullets today, theoretically, I mean, there's a few reasons. So, like, if you have a perfect circle, so, you know, at the core of the matter, you know, when a cartridge is ignited, or a cartridge goes off, there's pressure that goes in all directions. And if you had a square, you know, there's, I don't know, if the length between, imagine if the screen is a bullet, or is a cartridge, and it, imagine this length as being the radius of the cartridge. This length is shorter than that length. There's going to be a lot of pressure building up here. And there might be some other structural things, and that's not what I wanted to do, god damn it. But it's not going to be, there's going to be a weak spot there, right? Technically it might be a little bit more efficient. I don't know about aerodynamics. when I'm thinking about it, like, the first thing that comes to my mind is handguns, where ballistics don't matter as much. They really don't. For the ranges you're probably going to be shooting at. But, you know, that is absolutely still a consideration, though. Yeah, what was I gonna say? Sorry, I mean, the square bullets thing, and yeah, okay, yeah. So, I had a look, but I think the square shotgun, it does use a standardized shells. Like, it is used with something else. And I guess you could make a magazine that does that, but just, like, round shapes are going to have... maybe they won't have feeding issues, actually. It depends. If you have, like, a chamber with a taper to it. But, like, it's so much easier to just manufacture. It's actually a lot easier to manufacture a circular thing than a square thing, I'm pretty sure. Maybe it doesn't matter, but, like, yeah, there's, like, the pressure thing probably is the most realistic reason. But, like, theoretically, you could do the square bullet thing. The Rattler, I've mentioned that the magazine, you know, being forward of the grip and, like, being, like, at the, you know, at the muzzle, basically, you know, you have a system where you can take the bullet out the back of the cartridge, at the back of the magazine. I don't know why I'm stumbling over every single thing I'm saying. That's a little concerning. Anyway, you can take it out of the back of the magazine, and either, you know, it can go up or it can go down with a little arm thing. You can put it into the chamber, and you can have the chamber at the back of the thing. The back of the gun relative, you know, it's a thing you can do. It's a thing you absolutely could do. I'm gonna make this like a ludicrously long episode, aren't I? It's a thing you could do. Why would you do it? I think, okay, I think in all fairness, I think the reason you would want to do this, is if you had cartridges that were longer or larger than a feasible, than you could get in a feasible handgun grip. I think that's probably and you didn't want to have, you know, a huge, and you didn't want to have a ridiculously long pistol, because, like, I mean, this is the long barrel version, but imagine this is whatever, a 4-inch barrel or something, I don't know, it doesn't matter. But imagine that, like, you know, all of this is nothing. All of this is just mechanical stuff. But with this sort of take the cartridge thing, you can have this, and you could have theoretically a, you know, like a Magnum pistol, or something that shoots 5.56, or like a rifle round that needs a bit more barrel length to actually stabilize. You could do that. Does the Rattler fire a cartridge? I don't know. Presumably not. Although that being said, I mean, they do have a little bit of a revolver aesthetic with the cylindrical magazine, part of the magazine, but it's probably like a rotary magazine. And also the extended mags don't make any sense. Like, I mean, they probably could work again, but, like, you would not do that. That would be a very odd thing to do. Because they, like, curve down at a weird backwards angle, and it depends on the cartridges. But normally, you know how the AK has that, you know, curve? That's because of the way that bullets are tapered. The way that bullets are tapered, like, that's the only way that makes sense. You can have a backwards tapered cartridge, I think the Maynard cartridge, maybe the Burnside cartridge, or yeah, the Burnside carbine or Maynard carbine. Like when they were first figuring out cartridge technology, there were no standards. So like, yeah, in summary, there is a conversation to be had. Do the guns in Starfield make a lot of sense? Maybe not. Do they give off, I mean, I don't know. Do they give off some sci-fi vibes? Sure, but like, I'm trying to think, because there's a lot more, actually, and I was having a thought about this, and like, there's a thing that actually I really want to do in my,
It is a beautiful day.
I really want to do a thing just because I want to, the world building, because world building's important. I'm trying to think. Okay, so what other guns do we have? Shoddy. Oh yeah, you know what? Okay, also this. Trying to think. I don't know where exactly the magazine ends, but I mean, this is just the bolt comes back. Yeah, no, that makes enough sense. And they're like, usually you have a spring behind the bolt, but I don't know where exactly the spring on this could be. But theoretically there can be a bolt that goes, a telescopic bolt that goes, or that, like, the cartridges, let's say the chamber's here, and a telescopic bolt that goes over the chamber and over the barrel, potentially. And it can have some connections to a spring. It could also be a tension spring. I don't know why tension springs aren't used a huge amount. There might be a reason for that, and I don't know. But you usually see compression springs, compression coil springs specifically, I guess. Trying to... EW... Okay, and obviously I can't... I mean, like... Some modded weapons also might make more sense. Energy weapons are also another thing entirely. Don't get me wrong. Trying to think what, trying to think, actually. Because when do square projectiles make any... I mean, I guess if you're trying to maximize on space efficiency, if space efficiency is a huge thing. Also, is there no texture there? Maybe it's... I don't know. I don't know. Is there any other regulator? Let's see. I mean, the regulator is probably the most... I'm sure there's some details. There's a lot more to revolvers than people give credit for. I mean, in the same world where this exists, and from the same manufacturer, they decided to give this thing a huge bore offset. That seems a bit odd. Although that being said, it does look like they kind of have a really aggressive angle on that grip, so that's something. I'm not even going to talk about the sights, because that's... some of it goes into aesthetics, and yeah. Learn about guns before you make guns in a video game, and get more creative with energy weapons. Holy shit! Like, energy weapons do not have to just be a gun, but laser. They can be something else. Have fun with it. Get nerdy about it. Enjoy your job. Mandatory Fun is a great album. Until next time, have a good day. Great day even. Chowskis.